10 most expensive wine bottles in the world today. Wine connoisseurs are willing to spend a substantial amount to savor their favorite wines. The list of the world's most expensive wines reveals just how much some bottles fetch at auctions. It's worth noting that a few of these record wine prices have been achieved at charity auctions, benefiting significant charitable organizations. For the past 2 decades, the most expensive wines in the world have been exclusively produced from the vineyards of France. However, there are now some contenders from new brands for the title of the most expensive wine. Below are 10 premium wines that have reached astonishingly high prices worldwide. 1. Château d'Yquem 1811, $117,000. This iconic classic wine from Château d'Yquem holds the Guinness World Record as the world's most expensive white wine. The estate in the Sauternes region of France was owned by the English monarchy during the Middle Ages. A vineyard was later established here, flourishing under the guidance of François José Fin de Sauvage d'Yquem. This wine was highly esteemed by wine enthusiasts, including the then President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson. The year 1811 marked an exceptional harvest, and Château d'Yquem wine is renowned for its longevity. This special Sauternes wine was purchased by Christian Van Eyck, a winemaker and restaurant owner, who drank it to celebrate his 50-year winemaking career. Château d'Yquem was sold at an exorbitant price after wine critics expressed their enthusiasm for it, making it one of the greatest wines in Bordeaux's history and one of the most premium wines ever produced. It received a 100 point rating from wine critic Robert Parker and another 100 points from the Wine Spectators per Henrik Manson in 1999. However, this 200-year-old bottle had to undergo rigorous inspections to establish its immense value. The bottle was sold with an inspection certificate, and the label was examined and compared to the 1811 paper label preserved in the castle's records. A glass bottle inspection confirmed that the shape, contours, and colors seemed to match with previously seen examples from the early 19th century. 2. Château Lafite, 1787, $156,450. This Bordeaux wine, Château Lafite from 1787, is still one of the world's most expensive wines more than 30 years later, according to the Guinness World Records. Its age alone could ensure a high price, but what makes it particularly special, especially for American collectors, is the J initials engraved on the glass. Owned by the Rothschild family, Château Lafite in France is renowned for its Bordeaux wines. Even the finest Bordeaux wines typically have a lifespan of over 50 years, and 200 years is beyond the limit for any wine. The allure of these expensive bottles and its other wines lies entirely in the joy of collecting rather than consumption. Lafite 1787 was clearly purchased as a memento by Jefferson, not as a wine, and it currently resides in the Forbes collection in New York. This outstanding classic wine was another favorite of Thomas Jefferson. During his time as the ambassador to France, he spent a significant amount of time visiting vineyards in Bordeaux and Burgundy, buying wines for his personal collection and on behalf of his friends back home. He also acquired 2 other highly valuable wines, Sherry 1775-43, 500, and the most expensive white wine ever sold, Château d'Yquem 1787-56, 588. It is believed that Jefferson even visited the vineyard and owned this special Bordeaux wine. The initials TJ are engraved on the glass. Publisher Malcolm Forbes purchased this Château Lafite wine. However, there have been doubts about whether it is genuine or fake, earning it the nickname, the billionaire's vinegar. 3. Penfolds Kalimna Blanc 42 Cabernet Sauvignon 2004, $168,000. The first non-French wine to make it into the list of the world's most expensive wines comes from South Australia. This renowned winery commissioned a hand-blown glass ampoule placed inside a handmade wooden cabinet. The limited edition of Penfolds Blanc 42 Cabernet Sauvignon, released in 2004, has a price tag of $168,000 per bottle. The wine's exceptional price stems from its rarity. It is made from the oldest Cabernet Sauvignon vines in the world, originally imported from France to Australia in the 1830s. These vines are now grown in the Kalimna vineyard in the Barossa Valley, northeast of Adelaide, producing incredibly limited fruit, but of high quality. As part of the purchase, Penfolds head winemaker personally visited each buyer's home to assist in opening it using a specially designed silver scribe similar to a cigar cutter. Penfolds commissioned a scientific-grade glass ampule to house it from 3 Australian artists, Nick Mount, who designed and hand-blown the glass, silversmith Hendrik Forster, who prepared the precious metal details, and furniture craftsman Andrew Bartlett, who crafted the custom Jarrah cabinet. Only 12 bottles of Penfolds Block 42 Cabernet Sauvignon were produced. This wine is made from 130-year-old vines and is in high demand. This Barossa wine possesses a complex richness with notes of blackcurrant and macerated cherry. Of the 12 bottles, 3 will go to Russia, London, and Dubai, 3 to the rest of Asia, 2 to North America, and 2 to Australia. 1 bottle will be donated to a charitable organization for auction, while the remaining bottle will be retained at Penfolds as a display piece. For Château Margaux, $1,787, $225,000. One of the first growth Château Margaux has been considered among the finest wines since 1855. At the time of Napoleon III's classification, Margaux was the only estate rated 20/20. This exclusive Bordeaux wine holds the record as one of the most expensive wines ever broken. New York wine merchant William Sokolin owned the Château Margaux wine on a consignment basis. It is believed to have previously belonged to Thomas Jefferson, similar to the Château Lafite mentioned earlier, with the initials J engraved on the bottle. Château Margaux 1787, a bottle in Thomas Jefferson's collection, may have been the most expensive bottle ever sold, valued at $500,000. However, when wine merchant William Sokolin brought the bottle to a Margaux dinner at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York in 1989, a waiter accidentally knocked over the bottle and destroyed its contents. Margaux's esteemed status had long been recognized before 1855. Margaux appeared in an auction advertisement in the London Gazette in 1705, and Margaux's 1771 was the first wine tavern to appear in Christie's listings. The property's history dates back to the 16th century. In 1784, U.S. President Thomas Jefferson ordered Margaux, upon which he wrote, "There cannot be a better bottle of Bordeaux." This Château Margaux 1787 inspired an opera of the same name, composed in 1887. A musical version of Château Margaux was recorded in 2015, and a humorous opera of the same name was performed in Spain in 2017. Most of Margaux's vineyards use organic farming methods. In 2017, 100% of the Grand Vin grapes were grown organically. 5. Château Lafite-Rothschild 1869, $233,972. To commemorate 15 years since its founding, Iregate Wine auctioned one of the world's most iconic wines, a wine also celebrating its 150th birthday, the 1869 Lafite-Rothschild. At a Sotheby's wine auction in Hong Kong in 2010, 3 bottles of Château Lafite-Rothschild were sold for $233,972 each to an anonymous Asian bidder. Estimated at around $60,000 per bottle, these wines faced fierce bidding competition. According to the Drinks Business, in 2010, 3 separate 750 milliliters bottles were sold at a Sotheby's store for $232,692 USD each. These are the most expensive standard-sized wine bottles ever sold in the world. This particular bottle had previously been sold in Montreal in 2017 by Quebec's Liquor Control Board, where it underwent meticulous authentication by their team of experts. The 1869 Lafite-Rothschild was repurchased from a collection consisting of numerous wines from 1920 onwards, as well as a Lafite 1902. This bottle had nothing extraordinary. As a rare pre-phylloxera wine, this classic wine marked the first wine bottled at Lafite. It also represents the first antique owned by Baron James de Rothschild. Lafite wines are in high demand among wine collectors in Asia, and these particular wines mark the first bottling at Lafite. They also represent the first wines produced under Baron James de Rothschild's ownership. Many French vineyards were heavily affected by phylloxera in the late 1800s. This wine is a rare pre-phylloxera classic, explaining its high price. 6. Château Cheval Blanc 1947, $304,375. Those with tasting experience often assert that Château Cheval Blanc 1947 is not only the finest Cheval Blanc of the 20th century, but also one of the greatest clarets of that century. However, it's a wine that doesn't conform to the Bordeaux elite model. It's rich and lightly spicy, with high alcohol content and an easily evaporating acidity. This weight and transparency may be atypical of Cheval Blanc, but very few tasters can resist its fresh structure and alluring flavors. However, its success is somewhat bizarre, as no modern wine producer would venture to create a wine in this style. As the French wine writer Michel Dauvois remarked, in 1947, Cheval Blanc defied the laws of modern science. As one of the world's finest clarets, Château Cheval Blanc 1947 is one of only 4 wines holding the position of Premier Grand Cru, Class A. This is the highest classification for Saint-Emilion wines. Only a few thousand cases of Château Cheval Blanc have ever been produced. Most of these were consumed shortly after release, making this Bordeaux wine extremely rare. In 2010, an imperial-sized bottle of Château Cheval Blanc, equivalent to 8 standard 750 ml bottles, was sold for $304,375 at a Christie's auction in Geneva. This is the only known imperial-sized bottle of this exceptional classic. In 1947, Cheval Blanc was in the hands of the Foucauld-Laussac family, who had owned the property since the early 19th century. Their ownership continued until 1998, when it was bought by the current owners, Bernard Arnault, the CEO of the luxury conglomerate LVMH, and Belgian tycoon Baron Albert Farre. In 1947, the estate manager was Jacques Foucauld-Laussac. 7. Château Mouton-Rothschild 1945, $310,700. One of the intriguing items in the museum's collection is a bottle of Château Mouton-Rothschild 1945, a red Bordeaux wine from France. Gift of Steve Simmons, 2017, $354,001. Another oversized bottle set a record in the auction, the rare Château Mouton-Rothschild from 1945. Due to late frost that year, it was the smallest vintage since 1915. This 4.5-liter wine barrel is equivalent to 6 regular wine bottles. It is adorned with the letter V for victory, designed by artist Philippe Julien to celebrate the end of World War II. Château Mouton-Rothschild is one of the Bordeaux first growth wines in southwestern France. The other Bordeaux first growths of today include Lafite-Rothschild, Château Latour, Château Margaux, and Château Haut-Brion. The grapes used for Bordeaux red wine are Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and small amounts of Petit Verdot, Malbec, and Carme and Ray. Today, Château Mouton-Rothschild covers 222 acres, planted with Cabernet Sauvignon 81%, Merlot 15%, Cabernet Franc 3%, and Petit Verdot 1%. Mouton is now dubbed the first growth under the name the Bordeaux. Wines are ranked by reputation and commercial price of the toe. For unclear political reasons, Mouton was ranked second growth in 1855, still an honor, but a deep source of resentment for the Rothschild family. 8. The setting wines: Alexander Valley Cabernet Sauvignon 2015, $350,000. Alexander Valley Vineyards is owned and operated by the Wetzel family. Established in 1975, it sits on the old home of Cyrus Alexander. The Wetzel family estate now grows 14 different grape varieties across various locations, stretching from the Russian River to hillside slopes. Each grape variety suits a specific type of soil and sun exposure. Today, the third generation of Wetzels has joined the winery. Harry Wetzel, IV, is the wine production assistant, while his brother Robert is the national sales director. In 2017, at a charity auction hosted by the Emeril Lagasse Foundation, a rare 2015 bottle of the setting wines Alexander Valley Cabernet Sauvignon was sold for $350,000. Along with the Boudin, bourbon, and beer event selling out, $3.5 million was raised that weekend for children's charities. Alexander Valley Vineyards produces 100,000 cases annually, with 17 diverse and exclusive wine blends. 75% of AV's production is red wine. Chardonnay Erlet and Cabernet Sauvignon account for about half of the total production. Other varietals include Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, Gewürztraminer, Syrah, Sangiovese, Viognier, and Cabernet Franc. The setting is a luxurious wine collection created by friends Noah McMahon, Jeff Kova, and Jesse Katz. Jesse is an award-winning winemaker who has worked with Chateau Petrus and Screaming Eagle. A 100% single-source Napa Valley wine, it brings bold flavors of sweet tobacco, shaved coconut, and mocha, with layered flavors built around dense tannins and soft oak. 9. Screaming Eagle Cabernet Sauvignon 1992, $500,000. Screaming Eagle Winery, an iconic establishment in Napa Valley, California, produced its inaugural vintage of wine in 1992. Since then, they have gained immense prominence, with limited annual production ranging from 500 to 850 cases. The initial owner, Gene Phillips, was introduced to wine producer Heidi Peterson Barrett through the Robert Mondavi Group. Their 1992 Cabernet Sauvignon wine received a remarkable rating of 99 points from wine critic Robert Parker. Screaming Eagle is a celebrated California wine and one of the most sought-after wines globally, produced in small quantities from a tiny vineyard in Napa, Oakville. This Cabernet Sauvignon wine often sells for up to $3,000 per bottle, making it the most consistently expensive wine produced in the United States. Gene Phillips established the vineyard in 1986 and began selling grapes to local producers in Napa. After a few years, the decision to establish a winery was made, and Screaming Eagle's first classic release came in 1992. Since then, the Screaming Eagle 1997 and 2007 vintages have achieved perfect 100 point ratings. Reports indicate there are over 4,000 people on the waiting list to become members of Screaming Eagle. Consequently, the public purchase price for non-members is exorbitant. A bottle of Screaming Eagle Cabernet Sauvignon 1992 is the most expensive Napa Valley wine ever sold. It is also the priciest wine ever produced in the United States. The Screaming Eagle Sauvignon Blanc, introduced in 2012, initially retailed for $250 per bottle, but it quickly soared to astronomical prices on the secondary market, fetching 10 times its release price. 10 Domaine de la Romanee-Conti Grand Cru 1945, $558,000. The name Romanee-Conti is enough to send shivers down the spines of wine lovers worldwide. Its price certainly attests to its excellence. The world's most expensive wine is the Domaine de la Romanee-Conti Grand Cru from Burgundy, France. Only 600 legendary bottles of this wine were produced in 1945, which explains its exorbitant cost. Furthermore, this was the last year the grapes were harvested from these particular vines. Subsequently, these vines were uprooted, and younger vines were planted in their place. The wine is aged in specially selected new oak barrels for 3 years. Such meticulous attention to detail contributes to the creation of truly exceptional wine. Its complex aromas are superb, evoking roses, violets, spices, truffles, and leather in a luxurious and intense blend. Sotheby's estimated auction value was $32,000, making the record-breaking sale price of $558,000 quite surprising. Shortly after, another aged wine was sold for $496,000. These rare and vintage wines belonged to Robert Drouhin, a renowned winemaker. His father, Maurice Drouhin, was the exclusive distributor of Romanee-Conti in France and Belgium from 1928 to 1964. When France was invaded by Germany in the 1930s, Maurice constructed a secret underground cellar to safeguard the wines. Maurice was a key member of the French resistance, serving as the liaison officer to General Douglas MacArthur. The Gestapo discovered this, and a firing squad was sent for Maurice. He had been warned in advance and escaped through the cellars of what is now the famous Hospices des Beaunes. Maurice was hidden by nuns in the building until the liberation in 1944. Above is the list of the world's 10 most expensive wines that we wanted to introduce to our readers. All of these pricey wines are extremely rare, creating a supply-demand imbalance. Most of them are aged in French oak barrels. The rarest examples are referred to as unicorn wines. This term was initially coined on Instagram and denotes wines that are exceedingly exclusive, much like the champagne shipwreck.